Jesus' claim of oneness with the Father, evidence of his divinity. In the New Testament, Jesus makes profound statements about his relationship with God the Father, many of which directly assert his divine nature. One of the most striking declarations is found in John 10:30, where Jesus says, "I and the Father are one." This statement has far-reaching implications, as it asserts a unity of essence and authority between Jesus and God, making it a cornerstone of Christian belief in Jesus' divinity. Biblical evidence of Jesus' oneness with the Father. John 10:30. I and the Father are one. This declaration emphasizes a unity of essence and purpose between Jesus and the Father. The context reveals its significance. Jesus is responding to questions about his identity and authority. The Jewish leaders immediately recognize this as a claim to divinity, as they pick up stones to kill him for blasphemy. John 10:31-33. The Jews answered him, "It is not for a good work that we are going to stone you, but for blasphemy, because you, being a man, make yourself God." John 14:9. Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. In his discourse with Philip, Jesus explains that seeing him is equivalent to seeing the Father. This statement goes beyond mere representation. It claims an intimate and intrinsic unity between the two. John 17:21-22. That they may be one as we are one. In Jesus' high priestly prayer, he prays for his followers to experience unity like that between himself and the Father. This unity reflects the shared divine nature and mission of the Son and the Father. Hebrews 1:3, the radiance of God's glory. The writer of Hebrews describes Jesus as the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature. This imagery underscores Jesus' equality with the Father in essence and being. Colossians 1:19, the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. Paul writes that the fullness of God's deity dwells in Jesus. This verse affirms that Jesus is not a mere representative or prophet, but fully and completely God. Theological implications. The unity between Jesus and the Father is not one of purpose alone, but of essence. Jesus claims equality with God, sharing his authority, glory, and attributes. If Jesus is not divine, these statements would constitute blasphemy. However, his miracles, teachings, and resurrection validate his claims, demonstrating that he truly is one with the Father. The reaction of the Jewish leaders further emphasizes the gravity of Jesus' claims. Their accusation of blasphemy shows they understood him to be claiming divinity, and their response to stone him indicates how seriously they regarded this assertion. Challenges for skeptics and non-believers. What does "I and the Father are one" mean? In John 10:30, Jesus claims oneness with the Father. If this is not a declaration of divinity, why did the Jewish leaders accuse him of blasphemy? Why did Jesus equate seeing him with seeing the Father? In John 14:9, Jesus says, "Whoever has seen me has seen the Father." How can this be true if Jesus is not God? What does Hebrews 1:3 mean by exact imprint? The writer of Hebrews describes Jesus as the exact imprint of God's nature. How can this description fit anyone who is not divine? Why does Paul say the fullness of God dwells in Jesus? In Colossians 1:19, Paul asserts that the fullness of God was pleased to dwell in Jesus. How can a created being embody the fullness of deity? Why did Jesus pray for unity like his with the Father? In John 17:21-22, Jesus prays for believers to be one, as he and the Father are one. What does this unity mean, if not shared divine nature and mission? Why did the Jewish leaders accuse Jesus of blasphemy? In John 10:31-33, the Jewish leaders accused Jesus of making himself God. Were they mistaken about the implications of his words? What does "the Father is in me" mean? In John 14:10-11, Jesus says, "The Father is in me, and I am in the Father." How can this mutual indwelling be explained without acknowledging Jesus' divinity? Why did Jesus accept worship? If Jesus is not God, why did he accept worship from his followers, as seen in John 20:28, when Thomas declares, "My Lord and my God"? How can Jesus share God's glory? In John 17:5, Jesus asks the Father to glorify him with the glory they shared before the world began. How can Jesus claim pre-existence and shared glory with God if he is not divine? Why did Jesus' claims result in his crucifixion? The central charge against Jesus at his trial was blasphemy, based on his claims of equality with God. How can skeptics dismiss his claims without undermining the historical context?